Strength in numbers.
We're from the union.
Solidarity. Defiance.
Farmers union. If you want to with us, we will with you.
In Victoria, the big construction unions were out in force in their thousands as part of a national day of action. They were protesting against the federal government's decision to appoint an administrator to run the country's largest construction union, the CFMEU, after allegations of violence, corruption and extortion. Have you seen these standover tactics, extortion used, violence?
No, not at all.
So where are these allegations coming from?
Exactly. So I don't see that. Never seen
But do
that.
they just come out of thin air?
I don't know. This is like anything, you know, there's always that question mark.
Some of the unions here today are funding a High Court case challenging the government's authority to take over a democratically elected organised union and to remove officials not convicted of offences.
If they can take over a union without being found guilty, what's to stop them taking a farm, taking someone's business? It's just unjust, really.
I would ask people to do is to calm down and just wait and see how the administrator works out before you attack it.
Coming up on 60 Minutes.
When allegations of corruption, violence and underworld infiltration of the Victorian branch of the CFMEU were exposed by 60 Minutes and 9 newspapers in July, the union's National Secretary, Zack Smith, in damage control, brought in top barrister and director of the Centre for Public Integrity, Jeffrey Watson, SC, to investigate.
The CFMEU employees were directed to respond to my request that I speak to them. So I got through around about 15 witnesses, some of whom we'd spoken to several times, by the time the administrator was appointed.
This week, Mr Watson handed down his interim report to the administrator of the CFMEU, Melbourne barrister Mike Lorigan KC.
The most troubling things that I found was the way in which outlaw motorcycle gangs had inserted themselves into the union so that they were part, in effect, of the union, that bikies were appointed delegates with no apparent skills, experience or training for the job, but they were in there negotiating on behalf of the union.
Jeffrey Watson says the Victorian branch has been caught up in a cycle of lawlessness where violence was accepted as part of the culture.
It became immediately apparent that this sector, the building industry, in Victoria at least, is quite out of control. And there's criminal instincts are just manifested every day on building sites all around Victoria. They're violent places. Very soon into the inquiry, we heard an account of 2 union organisers really very badly bashed on a site in East Hawthorn. One man lost an eye.
In this case, according to Mr Watson, the union didn't go to police to report the violence, but sought out underworld veteran Mick Gatto, who now runs a mediation company.
In fact, in that instance, we were told that the union brought in Mick Gatto to negotiate on its behalf to fix the problem. So this is where this was starting. It was quite stunning.
The New South Wales anti-corruption lawyer is critical of what he sees as a breakdown in the relationship between the CFMEU and the police.
I just can't see where the police are doing their job. And as I say, to some extent I can understand that because they're talking to a union which doesn't regard itself bound by the law, and they're talking to a union which, rather than go to the police, would go to crime figures.
And ultimately,
now, the union's administrator, Mark Irving, will extend Jeffrey Watson's investigation and expand his powers.
Providing me with coercive powers is a game changer. I'll be able to question people, I'll be able to call for the production of documents, and it means that I've got a much better chance of getting to the bottom of this.
Jeffrey Watson's interim report, what was your reaction to that earlier this week?
Look, I'm still going through the interim report. I don't have any comment to make on that at this stage.
65,000 workers.
At today's protest in Melbourne, the CFMEU's National Secretary, Zack Smith, was front and centre.
We're starting to see evidence that there are employers lining up in the background that are wanting to use administration as the grounds to try and wind the clock back on hard-won conditions.
These workers are concerned the administration process is putting hard-won pay and conditions negotiated through enterprise bargaining agreements at risk. It's anger, Jeffrey Watson says, is misguided.
The terms and conditions of your working arrangements won't be eroded by the appointment of the administrator. The administration couldn't interfere with them because it's all subject to Fair Work Commission approval.
Stand up, fight back!
Today's protests extended beyond Melbourne and included Sydney.
I just wish the union membership would see that what we're doing is a positive thing, not a negative thing. We're actually trying to get rid of the people who may have been responsible for some bad conduct in the CFMEU.
But it's going to take a lot more to convince union members that this is in their interests. Are you concerned about some of the allegations against the union?
In relation to?
Some of the violence that's used.
Violence? What violence?
Extortion.
Extortion?
Corruption.
The politicians are corrupt, the banks are corrupt, but we don't talk about white-collar crime, do we?
That's right!